Sometimes it's not the comment itself that causes the fallout, it's the moment it lands. One sentence, framed as a joke, laughed off in real time, but almost instantly fans felt something shift. The mood changed. The reactions online told a different story. Because this wasn't just humor. It touched on officiating, fairness, and respect, three of the most sensitive pressure points in the WNBA right now. What sounded casual to some raised eyebrows for others. And once clips started circulating, the context disappeared, leaving only interpretation. That's when the debate exploded. Was it harmless locker room talk? Or did it feed into a narrative fans were already frustrated with? The league has been under a microscope lately, and timing matters more than ever. What followed wasn't just backlash. It was a reminder of how fast perception can flip, and how one moment can spiral into something much bigger. It didn't sound explosive at first. In fact, it sounded casual, almost harmless. A quick remark delivered with a half smile meant to land as humor. But in today's WNBA landscape, where every word is clipped, shared, and dissected within minutes, intent often matters less than impact. And this one landed wrong. The moment Kelsey Plum made the comment, you could feel the air shift. Not because it was loud or aggressive, but because of what it hinted at. Officiating, special whistles, moving screens. These aren't throwaway topics. They're some of the most sensitive fault lines in the league, especially right now, when fans already believe games are being called unevenly and certain players are treated differently. What made it worse wasn't just what was said, but who it involved. Aliyah Boston didn't laugh it off. Her reaction said everything. This wasn't a laughing with you moment. It was uncomfortable, and viewers noticed immediately. Social media froze the clip, slowed it down, zoomed in on facial expressions, and suddenly the joke stopped being a joke. Because here's the problem. When a player casually jokes about something referees struggle to call consistently, it gives officials cover. It plants the idea that, yeah, maybe this player does get away with more. That's not funny, that's ammunition. And it's even worse when it comes from a teammate. Fans didn't take long to connect the dots. If this comment had been made about Paige Buchers, Caitlin Clark, or any other lightning rod star, the backlash would have been nuclear. But because it was Aliyah Boston, a player already unfairly targeted by certain fan groups, the response became selective. Some laughed, some defended it, others quietly pointed out the hypocrisy. The league's history makes this moment heavier than it should have been. WNBA fans are hyper-aware of narratives, who gets protected, who gets criticized, and who gets blamed when games turn controversial. So when Plum's comment hit, it didn't exist in a vacuum. It landed on top of months of frustration, suspicion, and online tribalism. What truly escalated things was the realization that there was no malice. This wasn't an attack. It wasn't shade. It was awkward honesty mixed with poor timing. And that's what made it dangerous. Because accidental comments still have consequences, sometimes worse ones. Aliyah Boston didn't need to say a word. Her reaction alone told fans that this crossed a line. Not because players don't know moving screens happen, everyone does. But because you don't say it out loud. Not publicly. Not when refs are already under fire. And definitely not when it's your own teammate. In a league fighting for credibility, visibility, and respect, moments like this linger. One sentence turned into a debate about fairness, favoritism, and loyalty. And once that door opened, there was no closing it. This wasn't just a joke gone wrong. It was a reminder that in today's WNBA, every comment carries weight, whether you mean it to or not. The fastest way to start chaos in basketball isn't trash talk. It's officiating. Say the word whistle, and suddenly nobody is listening anymore, they're reacting. That's why Kelsey Plum's comment didn't just drift by as locker room humor. It hit a nerve the league has been protecting for years. Moving screens are the hardest call in basketball. Every player knows it. Every coach knows it. Every ref knows it. They happen on nearly every possession, and enforcement has always been inconsistent. Some stars get leeway, some don't. And everyone pretends that imbalance doesn't exist, because the moment you acknowledge it publicly, you legitimize every angry fan complaint. That's where the real problem begins. When a player jokes about special whistles, even casually, it does two dangerous things at once. First, it gives referees an out. If the players themselves are saying it, then suddenly missed calls don't look like mistakes, they look like expectations. Second, it throws the player being joked about into the fire, whether they asked for it or not. Aliyah Boston didn't ask to become the face of an officiating debate. She plays physical basketball. So does Alyssa Thomas. So does A'ja Wilson. So does half the league. But Boston is the one who took the hit here, not because her screens are uniquely bad, but because narratives choose targets, and once a narrative sticks, it's almost impossible to shake. This is where comparisons matter. Imagine a teammate joking that James Harden never gets called for travels at the peak of his rule-bending era. That wouldn't be funny, it would be reckless. Harden played on the edge of the rulebook, yes, but his teammates never publicly handed referees a reason to clamp down harder. Because competitive players understand something crucial. You never help officials justify tightening the leash on your own. That's why fans reacted so strongly. Not because Plum meant harm, most people agree she didn't, but because competitive instincts should have stopped the words before they left her mouth. Humor doesn't excuse positioning your teammate as a problem, especially in a league where certain players are already under a microscope. And the response exposed a bigger truth. Fan reactions aren't consistent, they're tribal. If this comment had involved Paige Buchers, the outrage would have been immediate and overwhelming. If it had been Caitlin Clark, it would have dominated headlines for weeks. But because it was Aliyah Boston, the reaction splintered. Some laughed, some minimized it. Others quietly recognized the double standard but knew calling it out would only escalate things further. That's the uncomfortable reality of modern WNBA discourse. It's rarely just about basketball anymore. It's about camps, allegiances, and who people want to protect versus who they're comfortable criticizing. And Aliyah Boston's expression said it all. She didn't overreact. She didn't clap back. She didn't need to. Her face carried the message. This wasn't funny to me. And when a player reacts like that, it means the line was crossed, even if the speaker didn't realize it at the time. Because in this league, jokes about whistles don't disappear, they echo. What happened next had very little to do with basketball, and everything to do with fandom. The moment the clip spread, the conversation split into predictable camps, not over what was said, but over who it involved. That's how WNBA discourse works now. The same comment can be brushed off as humor or treated like a scandal, depending entirely on the name attached to it. Aliyah Boston landed in the middle of that storm for reasons that had nothing to do with moving screens. For years, fans have tried to force rivalries onto her that she never asked for. She was supposed to clash with Caitlin Clark. She was supposed to represent one side against another. And when she didn't play along, when she showed respect, chemistry, and professionalism, that disappointed people who wanted drama more than truth. So when Kelsey Plum's comments surfaced, some fans didn't hear a joke, they heard permission. Suddenly, Boston wasn't just a dominant post player anymore. She became the one who gets away with stuff. Not because the film showed something new, but because the narrative finally had a quote to lean on. That's how targets are built, not with evidence, with implication. Meanwhile, the same physical habits from other stars were quietly ignored. Alyssa Thomas has been called the most aggressive screener in the league for years. A'ja Wilson routinely pushes the edge with physicality that officials allow because she's elite. This isn't secret knowledge. It's understood basketball reality. But those players weren't the ones named. Boston was. That imbalance is what frustrated people who saw the situation clearly. Not because Plum was wrong about screens existing, they do. But because the joke landed unevenly, and uneven landings create resentment. Once that happens, the basketball conversation disappears. And then came the fan behavior that always follows. Some supporters defended Plum by attacking Boston's game. Others defended Boston by dragging Plum's personality. A third group escalated it into proxy wars about Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, South Carolina fandom, or league favoritism. Entire arguments erupted that had nothing to do with the original comment, but felt justified because people were already emotionally loaded. That's the danger of modern sports discourse. One careless line doesn't stay small. It becomes fuel for people who were already waiting to argue. What made it worse was Boston's reaction, or lack of one. She didn't snap back, she didn't joke it off. She didn't play into the moment, she just looked uncomfortable. And discomfort reads louder than anger. Fans notice it, players notice it, media notices it. That silence forced people to project their own interpretations onto her. Some saw maturity, some saw frustration, some saw confirmation of long-held biases. But no matter the interpretation, the damage was already done, because once fans feel justified in critiquing a player's privileges, they don't stop at one clip. They rewatch games differently. They complain louder. They tag referees. They demand corrections. And suddenly, the player isn't just competing against opponents anymore. She's competing against a storyline she never created. And that's the part nobody jokes about. Here, where the situation quietly crosses a line most fans don't notice at first. Comments like this don't just live on social media. They travel. Referees hear them. Broadcasters repeat them. Fans bring them into arenas. And once an idea enters the ecosystem, it subtly changes how games are watched and sometimes how they're called. No referee wants to be accused of favoritism. That pressure is real. So when a narrative starts floating that a specific player gets away with something, officials become hyper-aware of it. Not consciously biased, but alert. And alert refs don't officiate the same way they did before. That's why veterans almost never joke about whistles. Not because they don't see the same things fans do, but because they understand the downstream effect. Even a lighthearted comment can tighten a referee's trigger finger. And when that happens, the player mentioned pays the price, not the person who made the joke. For Aliyah Boston, that's especially risky. Her game is built on positioning, timing, and physical presence. She doesn't rely on speed. She doesn't avoid contact. She creates it. That means she already lives in a gray area of officiating. A few extra borderline calls per game can completely change her impact without showing up as a scandal. And this isn't speculation pulled from nowhere. Fans have seen it before. Bigs across basketball history have been rebalanced by officials once narratives stick. Suddenly, screens that went uncalled for months become whistles. Post-defense becomes too physical. The same play that was legal yesterday gets flagged today, and nobody can point to a single moment when it officially changed. It just happens. That's why some viewers reacted so strongly to Plum's comment, even while acknowledging there was no malice. It wasn't about intent. It was about timing. This happened during a period when the league is already under a microscope. Ratings debates, star visibility, and perceived favoritism all being argued at once. Add that context, and a joke stops being harmless. Meanwhile, the reaction exposed another uncomfortable truth. Not all stars are protected equally by the narrative machine. Some players get framed as smart, crafty, or veteran savvy. Others get framed as sneaky or borderline. Those labels stick, and they follow players for years. Boston has spent her entire pro career avoiding that trap. She's been careful, media trained, team first, which is exactly why this moment felt off. She didn't earn that label through behavior. It arrived through association. And then there's the teammate factor. When criticism comes from an opponent, players brush it off. When it comes from media, they prepare for it. But when it comes from someone you're sharing the floor with, even casually, it hits differently. Not because it's betrayal, but because it creates a crack. A moment where trust and public perception briefly fall out of sync. That doesn't mean locker rooms implode. Most don't. But it does mean players remember who speaks carefully and who doesn't. And once fans sense that tension, they amplify it. Because what keeps attention longer than basketball? The idea that something might be off beneath the surface. And that's where this story was headed next. What happened next didn't unfold on the court. It happened in timelines, comment sections, and clipped videos stripped of context. Within hours, the quote stopped sounding like a joke. Screenshots traveled faster than explanations. Short clips replaced full conversations. And suddenly, fans weren't reacting to what was actually said. They were reacting to what they felt was implied. That's the modern WNBA media cycle. Some fans framed the comment as proof of favoritism. Others treated it as confirmation that certain players are protected while others get targeted. And a third group, often louder than the rest, turned it into a proxy war between fan bases that were already on edge. This wasn't really about screens anymore. It became about respect. For Aliyah Boston supporters, the frustration was familiar. They've watched her absorb contact, get hit with soft fouls, and still be expected to play through it without complaint. So when a narrative popped up suggesting she's somehow gaming the system, it felt backwards. Not just unfair, insulting. On the other side, some fans brushed it off entirely. They argued that stars joke, teammates joke, and reading into it too deeply says more about the audience than the speaker. In their view, outrage culture was doing what it always does, inflating nothing into drama. Both sides thought they were defending the game. But here's the catch: online debates don't need facts to escalate. They need identity. Once fan groups feel attacked, logic exits the room. Every past grievance gets dragged back into the spotlight. Old clips resurface. Previous officiating controversies get relitigated like they happened yesterday. And suddenly, this one moment gets tied to everything else fans are already mad about. Ratings, media coverage, rookie hype, veteran recognition, who gets marketed, who gets ignored. The comment became a symbol, not a statement. That's why even unrelated names got pulled in. Caitlin Clark's absence from certain conversations, Paige Bucher's viewership poll, Angel Reese's engagement numbers. None of that had anything to do with moving screens, but all of it fed the same underlying argument. The league doesn't treat all stars the same. And perception, once it hardens, is almost impossible to reverse. What made this spiral faster was timing. The league is in a fragile moment, balancing growth with internal tension, negotiating future structures, and navigating a new wave of attention that comes with louder audiences. Every comment feels heavier because the stakes are higher. So instead of dying in a 24-hour news cycle, this one lingered. People started asking questions that went beyond the quote itself. Why are certain jokes acceptable and others are? Why do some players get the benefit of the doubt while others get dissected? And who actually controls the narrative once fans decide it's personal? None of those questions have clean answers. But they reveal something important. This wasn't about Kelsey Plum being funny or unfunny, and it wasn't about Aliyah Boston's screens. It was about how quickly the league's conversation can shift, and how little it takes to ignite it. And the timing of that ignition couldn't have been worse. By the time the noise settled, one thing was clear. This situation was never about a single comment. It wasn't about moving screens. It wasn't about jokes landing or missing, and it definitely wasn't about one player trying to undermine another. What this moment exposed was something much deeper: how fragile the WNBA conversation still is when pressure meets perception. At its core, this was a collision of timing, visibility, and trust. The league is growing. Attention is higher than it's ever been, Every game, every quote, every clip now lives forever online. That kind of spotlight doesn't just amplify stars, it magnifies misunderstandings. And when fans already feel defensive about respect, fairness, or recognition, even harmless moments can feel loaded. That's what happened here. A casual line became a symbol, a joke turned into a referendum on officiating, and a normal teammate interaction was reframed as disrespect. Not because anyone intended it that way, but because the environment is primed for conflict. This is the downside of momentum. With more eyes comes more scrutiny. With more passion comes sharper division. And with more narratives competing for attention, nuance gets lost fast. Fans don't always hear what was said. They hear what fits the story they already believe. That doesn't mean reactions were fake or invalid. It means they were emotional. And sports, especially leagues fighting for long-term stability and respect, are built on emotion. What matters next is how moments like this are handled moving forward. Players are walking a tighter line than ever. Media framing matters more than it used to. And fans, whether they realize it or not, now shape the league's image as much as the games themselves. Every viral clip adds pressure. Every pylon raises stakes. If there's a lesson here, it's this. Growth doesn't just bring opportunity, it brings tension. The WNBA isn't dealing with too little attention anymore. It's dealing with too much noise. And learning how to manage that noise without turning every moment into a battle may be just as important as what happens on the court. Because if this much debate can erupt over a passing comment, imagine what happens when something truly controversial hits. And that's the real question hanging over the league now. Not whether players can handle the spotlight, but whether the conversation around them can grow up fast enough to match it.